Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness. It's the middle of the evening and we are doing an unboxing of Vijayanagara, the Deccan Empires of the Medieval India, 1290 to 1398. This is a relatively new game from GMT Games. It's got a nice long list of 4 co-designers here. We have Saviero Spagnoli, Matthew Johnson, Corey Graham, and Amon Matthews. So let's get the shrink off this guy, but we'll save you time and do that off camera. The shrink has been removed. Now, one thing to note, this is Volume 1 in GMT's new Irregular Conflict Series. So some people call this like coin light. Now some people were calling the British way kind of coin light. So it is what it is. It's a new series. I believe the Jest of Robin Hood is Volume 2 in that series. Let me tilt down. So what we have here, I'm going to quickly go through the contents and then focus on map and other visual items first, and then we'll take a look at the rules and other stuff. So we do have a rules of play booklet. It's colorful, but not glossy paper, 20 pages. Rules and reference. This is for the card-based non-player, Ibn Batuta. Okay, that's also 20 pages. A learn-to-play guide. Now, this is by Joe Dewhurst, that was the developer on the game. This is probably feels less, but it's 16 pages. It is. All right, a playbook by one of the co-designers, Saviero. All right, and this feels thicker than it is. It's 28 pages. So 4 booklets so far. All right, these look like player aid cards. They're feels like there's 3 of those identical. All right. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at one of these. I'm gonna step back even more here. Mongol invaders commands. Timur's invasion of Delhi, special rules. Legendary Chickamauga conqueror turns his eye to India. The Bahmani kingdom, the Vijayanagara Empire. So I believe there's 3 main positions. The Delhi Sultanate, the Bahmani kingdom, the Vijayanagara Empire. Now, so these are like, the Mongol invaders, the barbarians coming in. So that's not a player position. Okay. So there's 3 of those. Now, the Goat Tiger game. So this is a game board for some kind of Deccan Empire Indian game. I guess a game within a game. A sequence of play card, and that. All right. So Bahmanian player aid card. Delhi Sultanate player aid card. Vijayanagara Empire player aid card. All right, there are some counters. I believe this game has blocks, but there are some counters. Let me zoom in a little more here. Is that in good focus? A Mongol charge, cavalry charge. There's a whole bunch of those. Victory, victory, victory. So there's 3 different victory. So that's the victory point track for the 3 different groups. So it's corresponding to the colors. So the Vijayanagara will be probably orange. The Delhi Sultanate, the brown, and the Bahmanian Kingdom would be the blue. Now, interesting that only 2 of those have influence. Why does the Delhi Sultanate not have an influence marker? As far as you can tell. Maybe there's, oh, interesting. All right. So on the back, cavalry screen as opposed to charge. Mongol charge. Mongols just charge. The cavalry can charge your screen. Bahmanians, Delhi Sultanate. So you can use one side of the, and then tributaries. All right, I'm going to step back a little bit so you can see that a little bigger. All right. Mounted map. All right, and before we open that up, wooden bits, cubes and discs and hexagonal markers. Some wooden pawns here. All right, so coin-like bits from Coin Games. Yeah, I really don't know. I'd be interested to see surveys of. Some people like the wooden bits, and some people don't. Some people want. I want traditional. Counters. Why not do these with these? Some people like the 3D-ness to them, but it's not depicting anything specific. It's very abstract. Some people would rather see more counters. Some people would like the wooden bits. Interesting to see some kind of survey. And what's the cost difference between wooden bits and making more counters or not? All right. Dice. For red ones, kind of a not burgundy, more of a deep dusky red, but with gold pips. Looks kind of interesting. And then kind of like an ivory beige, darker than ivory. 2 of those. And then a card deck. All right, so let's look at this map before we go back and look at some of those other items in a little more detail. So this is a 17 by 22 map. I'm gonna step back here and zoom out. All right. So some kind of holding box here for the Vijayanagara Empire. The Bahmanian Kingdom's holding box. Up here, I don't know how well you can see the Delhi Sultanate at this angle. And there's Mongol invaders here. Mountain passes Punjab. All right, so here's the main. Oh, interesting. Delhi's a big round center here. All right. Tamilakam, now Tamil, the Tamil people on Ceylon or Sri Lanka, which actually isn't in play, this island, or it's part of this. Maharashtra, Gondwana, Gujarat, Rajput kingdoms, Bengal, Sindh. If you had seen my Maharaja playthrough early last year in 2023, you'll recognize some of the names because that stretched, from some 100 years BC all the way up to the arrival of the colonial powers. So this period for this Deccan empires, there's, sort of smack dab in the middle of that game. All right, so it's a very relatively simple map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 regions, areas, not counting Delhi, and then not sure how different Punjab and the mountain passes are. They don't have these little flags and don't have the number. There's 1s, 2s. I'm assuming this comes kind of a wealth or production value, that some of these provinces are worth 2. The 1s have just a simple circle. The 2s have like an 8-point flowery kind of symbol. There's nothing on Delhi, so I'm not sure how that differs from a particular region and how that works. Okay, they have a little, I'm going to zoom in more and down to this and take a look here. This is a sequence of play. Stay eligible, limited command. Interesting. Eligible factions, pass. Stay eligible. Ineligible factions, command and decree, event or command. That'll be interesting to see what this actually means. I've never seen it. It's almost like a flow chart. Arrows up and down. Trying to interpret these symbols here. It's like there's 3 flags here. The yellow or the blue, or the gray. The gray was the Delhi Sultanate, right? And the Vijayanagara and the Bhamani. So by passing, you can get 1 coin, or they can get 3. So you stay eligible, and you can either give a limited command, or pass and get some coin or something, and then eventually you do a command and decree, or an event or a command, and then you then become ineligible. So there's some probably sequencing through doing these until you do some particular kind of event or command thingy, and eventually everyone, interesting, by passing you stay here. Interesting to see that in more detail. All right. So let's close up this map. Mounted 17 by 22. All right, now, one thing we didn't do, which I usually do, is take a look at the back of the box. Should have done that more firsterish. But let's zoom in at the typical corner that I look at, starting with this data here. All right, so you can see complexity-wise, 4. So the lower side of medium with a very high solitaire suitability, as it says here, from 1 to 3 players, which includes a full solitaire system. If I go down a little bit, 1 to 2 hours of play time. All right. Now, as we'd witnessed in there, there's a map, playing cards, wooden pieces of various kinds. I'm not going to read that whole thing, but there was dice parades and all that stuff. So all those goodies that we saw. Now, I'm not going to read all this, but we'll take a quick look here. This game, Vijayanagara, depicts the epic, century-long rise and fall of the medieval kingdoms in India. 2 dynastic periods. And we have asymmetric roles between the Delhi Sultanate, Bahmani kingdoms, and the Vijayanagara Empire. So how their asymmetric roles are different, we're not sure. Now, we did see from the counters that only 2 of them had influence markers. So obviously right there off the bat, the fact that the Delhi Sultanate did not have influence, that's obviously going to be a little bit of difference. How the Bahmanians and the Vijayanagara Empire differ, we'll have to see that. I do not know at this point how to address that. All right. Periodic Mongol invasions. We've seen evidence of them so far. All right. So, searching for battle for supremacy over the Deccan Plateau. All right. Let's look next at the cards, which I'll save time and open for you. Off camera. I have opened these off camera for you. Deck, many cards. Reference cards. Attack references. There's 3 of them for the 3-player, up to 3 players. All right. Now, Khalji Dynasty. Seems to be colorish coded. So that looks like, wow, look at, that's little tiny print, guys. We're having focusing problems. There we go. Wow, that's little tiny print. My old eyes is going to have some problem with that. I'm going to need to have some kind of magnifying glass at hand. Now, are these all the same? No. MMLLKK. What is that? No, JJ. Wow. So definitely different. These 2 here, on the face of it looks the same, but they're not. So you see this little stuff here that I can actually see through the camera phone a little better than I can read. Rights in 4 provinces. This one says something is at 2. So whatever that symbol is, it's something at 2. Compel. That's some kind of like limited action, mini action. So these are like flowchart cards. And you can see readily that some of these are quite different, but these are 2-step. They have the same end result. Rebel using remove tributary, and then place Rajas and stop. So these 2 cards have the same end result, but this one you end up taxing and build using a palace temple. This one you're using compel. Well, here you look, you compel up front, and then you to remove a governor. Now this X, I don't know what that means. Arrow. Does that mean don't use only once, or do or don't put it in the discard pile? Or those are symbols. We'll have to look. Oh my God, this is okay. Dear publishers and designers, do not do this, please. Way too small. Look at all this room on this card. You could have moved this all down. You could have made that bigger and readable. This is bad. This is way too small. I cannot read this. I can barely read it through there. I can now read it through the phone. Until like coins less than a die 6 or 0 to rebel or after Lords of the Deccan. You know what? I don't know what that means. all the same in the upper corner there. I suppose we could learn by rote what that means, but that's way too small. Now you can see, you're probably, I can read that meandering like, yeah, on your screen as I'm zoomed way in, I'm at double magnification, but me looking over the top of the phone trying to read that text. Rajas in any one province. What is that symbol there? Is that influence? Is that something else less than 2? I don't know. 2d6 less than equal to available Rajas. All right, let's continue to look at some more cards. We won't look at all of them, but... oh boy. Lords of the Deccan, Rise of the Rebel Sultans, Zenith of the Delhi Sultanate. I don't know if those are 3 different scenarios. Let's us go find that playbook book. All right. Well, here's on this player aid card. These are Lords of the Deccan, Rise of the Rebel Sultans, Zenith of the Delhi Sultanate. Here are these cards. So on each of the player card, those same cards are here on the bottom part. Yep, they look like the same. All right. So that's some repetition of information. Now, so I don't know if these are solo scenarios featuring each of these, or because the information on these card images here are not different between each player aid. But here, this is describing different information. So this information is about this kingdom, but not relative to these scenarios. So still a big question about that. Oh, those are succession cards. Social action deck immediately upon drawing a succession card. All right, so this shuffle action deck. So these are succession into different phases. Sort of a change in who has primacy, I guess, you know, in a given age. Now I'm noticing something here. This is a little hard to read. All this stuff that is white on this dark background, that's fine. And the larger, you know, this lighter blue and the darker blue with bigger little labels, that's fine. But this text here, which is a normal thinness, it almost slightly looks like it's in italics. It's slightly tilted. That's hard to read for me. Maybe I don't know if you can read that very well there or not from that distance. Probably not. I don't know how well that reads for you. That's see, here's white, but here this is like a yellowish grayish. It's easier to read than the blue on the blue. Yeah, see, this is weird. For the big bolder labels, this is kind of the yellowish on the brownish tannish, but that's hard to read. So Dear publishers, your use of color has something to be desired. Keep an eye on the font sizes, the fanciness of the font, the thinness of the font, and this is not enough contrast. Sorry. You are taxing my aging eyes. All right. So we were wanting to look for, well, I was assuming the playbook. Now, sometimes a playbook is scenarios, and sometimes a playbook is a learn to play by examples. Faction guides, event cards, pronunciation guide, component setup, examples of play, teaching guide. So this playbook is kind of a weird, let's see, zoom out a little bit more. Historical background, well, that's fine. I'm not sure if that, in a playbook, why historical background, I mean, having historical background is good. I like having historical background under a designer note or something like that. But I don't know why that's in a document called a playbook. Playbook, yeah, one word, playbook. All right. The faction guides, okay. Basic strategy tips, common pitfalls, positioning the Kazbas, defense against Mongol raids. So a playbook in the sense like you're talking about a sport, you've got, a set of plays, plans of what you're going to do, and you're competing against your enemy. So in that sense, I get that idea of a playbook. And so these guides sort of make sense in that light. I'm going to try to zoom in a little more here. So for the Three Kingdoms, the guides. All right. Now, discussion of event cards gives more historical events. Which does include some tips. So it includes background information, more of that than the tips, but there are some tips. So that's in playbook issue, it's like, hey, here are things that can happen. These are historical events that'll have some effect in the game. We're getting the background on them, and there's a little bit of tips. So I guess that makes sense in there. All right. Quite a big list of event cards. I think it said on the back of the box, I don't think I mentioned it, but it said that the time scale of the game, that each event card represents about 5 years. So there's, in the length of time, 1290 to 1398, that's just over 100 years. So it's about 22 to 24 event cards. Let's see, here we're seeing 25. So we're fitting a little more in there. Oh, see, yeah, there's way more. If these are all event cards, it's definitely more than, well, except you might have this larger event deck that in the gameplay you might not have more than 24 draw of the cards or whatever, and so your time period 22 to 24 cards. Yeah, it looks like there's 36. So obviously that's more cards. If it was 5 per year, the period is again supposed to be 1290 to 1398. So that's only 190 years. Counting the endpoints. Pronunciation guide, that's good. Oh, good. With showing the accent, which syllables accented. That's good. So it's not Punjab, it's Punjab, right? Rajput. All right. Selected sources, so bibliography as such, designer notes. So designer notes, historical notes, bibliography, and then quote-unquote playbook. From a strategy perspective, there was the entry for for each of the 3 player positions, and then a discussion of all the event cards, including a small tips section on each. That was the playbook. The Learn to Play is very step-by-step introduction with a starting in on what your objectives are, how to win, the components. All right, large boxes hold each faction's available pieces. Deck and influence track for only the 2 of them. That sequence of play, they've got some counters here, and I guess you move to where your counter is, what it's doing. Delhi, Seat of the Delhi Sultanate, okay. Only the Delhi Sultanate and Mongol invader pieces may enter this space. Interesting. So no notion of the other 2, like sacking Delhi. The Mongols can get in there. And obviously the Delhi Sultanate want to keep them out, but the Bahmanians, the Vijayanagara Empire cannot enter Delhi. 2 irregular Mongol invasion regions. The Mongols advance towards Delhi. All right. Okay, the regions are called provinces. All right. Obviously not going to look through all of this. Cards. There are dynasty cards indicate the current family ruling the Delhi Sultanate. Event cards feature 2 possible options. Typically one that benefits the Delhi Sultanate and one that benefits either or both of the other 2 factions. Interesting. Okay, then here we start an example of play, talking through turn 1 events, commands and decrees, very step-by-step, limited command or pass. So this is sort of that learning by doing, by them actually talking through a actual turn of the game. All right, so they get through the first turn in very detail, a few pages worth, and then second turn. that's the second turn. They don't mention the third turn. Here's the 4th turn, and then the 5th turn, where they highlight certain kinds of actions. Turn 6, march and collect tribute. And the next step. So that steps you through much detail in the first turn. Little teaching guide. Yeah, that's interesting. That if you're going to teach it to someone else, here are some things to do. Here are some things to take note of. That's useful and helpful. All right. Now, so again, we had 2 of these. This is the rules of play. This is the card-based non-player rules and reference. So now most people would call that solo bot. Ibn Battuta is an adaptation of the Jacquard card-based non-player system first designed by Bruce Mansfield for Gandhi. All right, there you go. Probably from to anyone who has used Arjuna, Trung, Tayson, or Bonificio. Those are bot names. Now, I know that the Trung bot is one of the bots for Fire in the Lake that they sold separately, I believe, right? But the Tayson, Bonificio, or Arjuna, I'm not sure which systems those are referring to. Unless those are all part of Gandhi, but I was certain that the Trung bot was the name of that Fire in the Lake bot. But I could be mistaken because it could be a name that's a little similar and not the one I'm thinking of. All right, so we're not going to look through those much other than there's an example of play using the spot system too, so that's good. So, and the full rules. Let's look at So you might get to mostly learn by doing that sequence of play or having someone teach it to you, but you can always come back and reference these full rules for normal multiplayer play. Yes, stop. If this is your first time playing, you might want to start with the Learn to Play booklet. This is intended primarily as a reference purpose, which is interesting. This one uses reference, rules and reference. Well, this should say rules of play and reference also. If it's intended primarily as a reference, they should use the word reference on here. We can say rules of play for multiple players, rules and reference. All right. Oh, good glossary. Nice, good key terms index, as they say. Okay, it's good. It is a combined glossary with a reference to the section or sections where it talks about these. This is nice. I like this style of key terms index glossary with links, counter scans. In case you lose counters, you can copy this, print it out on some thicker cardstock, cut out some spare counters. All right. Okay, so that, we were seeing that on the stars. That sun is Vijayanagara influence. The crescent is Bahmani influence. Remember, only those two, the Delhi Sultanate did not have influence, but they have got Delhi. That's their difference. And that little coin thing is a quote-unquote resource. So money, resources, whatever, wealth, cavalry symbol. All right. So I think I didn't see any mention of this yet. So buried in there, the goat tiger game. Well, let's look in here in the back to see if it's in the keyword index EFG. No, it does not list goat tiger. So it's not part of the indexed rules under goat tiger game. So somewhere in there, we'll find out about that thing. I think at this point, I would like to look at just a few more of the cards. We're in at 23 minutes. 20 to 25 is my normal real goal. All right, so I mentioned the two-sided dynasty. All right, so yes, the first half. Khalji, the rebel command is forbidden during the Khalji dynasty. Rebel command is available during the Tughlaq. Dynasty. All right. So these flowchart cards, is there exactly 4? Because there was 4 that we saw before. Again, yeah, so see that tiny print. Bother. I don't know. I think I'm gonna need to scan these and blow them up and reprint them. These are too small for my old eyes, man. I feel so old. All right. All right. Now we had. Is these them? Yes. Here's those. So 4 of each of those. All right. Now. So these all have the same deck. So these should be those event decks, which from the back, right, it all looks the same, but you can tell there's certain types here because different banners. So Mongol invasions, quite a few of those. Timurid Empire. Succession crisis in Delhi the first time, and the second time Timur invades Delhi. So there's 2 of these cards that are identical, but basically the first time you draw one, you do the second time that. Mongol invasion. Let's see here. Let's try zooming in, see if we can. So we're looking at that bottom part there. Is that? There we go. Strategic assistance. Okay, interesting. So that's the flag of the Bami Kingdom, right? Turk alliance offered to the Bami Kingdom. Carry out 2 Mongol commands or compromising gifts. If their influence is 1 or more, you may get -1 influence, +2 reserves, +2 cavalry. Interesting. All right, so that 1, 2, those are the same. How many? They're not all the same, but there. Most of them, 4 of them are a Turkic alliance offered to the Bahmani. And here they're offering it to the Vijayanagara, because that's their influence symbol, remember. So it's this identical, yes, identical numbers, same thing. Strategic assistance, you must carry out 2 Mongol commands. Compromising gifts, if the influence is 1 or more, you can subtract 1 influence to get 2. Oh, so that's the Mongol invasions. And those are all part of this. Again, cards are kind of stiff. Let's zoom back out so you can. Okay, these are those limited actions or commands that were, on that flowchart, that stay eligible kind of thing. And then some are not. So there's certain kind of ones that you can play and quote-unquote stay eligible, whereas certain ones will pull you into that flow chart towards the left. Stay eligible. So that one's not. What percentage of these are stay eligible, stay eligible, stay eligible, not? Yadava Kingdom annexed. Huh. All right. Capital relocated. Kakatiya Empire extinguished. Oh, goodness. Huh. Hindu Kush Mountains. All right, so various events that has certain things, effect on influence, get to build or do things, take control or lose control of provinces, trade, gaining resources or cavalry points, more influence, less influence, critical maritime routes. Ooh. The Bahmani Sultan assassinated. Interesting. Hindu-Muslim marriages. The Bahmani Sultan weds a Hindu bride. All right. So they talked about the different portion of the card. So if you notice down here in the highlighted section, all right. Well, let's call it that. There's all these event cards. So as usual, I will use my plasti bands. Yes, some of you said it already. Yes, Meandering Mike plasti bands. And I would, for example, plasti band those together. I would put these 4 for each, guys. I'll like keep those together. Well, this is interesting. Is that the flag of the Mongols? Is that what this? Yeah, Punjab. It looks like controlling the Mongols. All right. So these flow cards, I'll probably keep those together. Put a plastic band on those. General reference for the 3 of these. Yeah, probably those 3, plastic band them together. Organizational purposes. So, and of course, there's that insert there, which no reason to get rid of it in this one. There's such a small number of counters. There's way too many spare baggies. You don't need all these. So you could break these up. Well, there's already looks like baggies within the baggies here. You could sort these color cubes better and use these to have, you know, sub sorts on those. And then in the box there. So again, I'm not gonna put these back in the box right now because I'm gonna go get my plastic bands and do that. So this was our unboxing of GMT's new game in their new series, the Irregular Conflict Series. It's kind of dark here. There. All right, yes. Zoom in better. GMT Games, Irregular Conflict Series, Volume 1. Volume 2 is A Gist of Robin Hood. That's by Fred Serval. And that's like on its way. Like it's like on the boat or coming soon, gonna ship soon. And then volume 3 is the Cross Bronx Expressway. So that's a totally different kind of irregular conflict series, right? Dealing with zoning and development in regards to the Cross Bronx Expressway and different factions and all that. So obviously that's not a kinetic warfare-based game. But it's irregular conflict. Well, this is definitely war-based. And then obviously the gist of Robin Hood is going to be not war in the traditional sense, but a conflict of opposition and rebellion and robbery, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, and opposition to the control of the Sheriff of Nottingham and Prince John while King Richard's away fighting the Crusades and all that good stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what else they come up with in this series. I don't know if there's a 4th one in the pipeline yet or not, but those are the 3 that I know of. All right, so let's call it there, folks. Vijayanagara, or as my wife jokingly called it, that Vijay game. Yeah, she did. So if you're interested in periods of medieval Indian history, if you like lesser played games, like I said, Maharaja from Avalon Hill in the 90s, which was a 95% complete clone of Louis Pulsifer's Britannia system, just set in a different time period with some chrome and stuff. And then there's another game I just picked up recently, a very obscure one. I remember was it Owls and Monkeys or Monkeys and Owls, or what was the name of that title, which I haven't had a chance to look at. I will probably take a look at that. And I can't remember if that's like the Gujara period or something, or that. But yeah, maybe I'll do a compare and contrast video on those at some point. But so interesting topic, potentially for those of you that, if you care about that, and part of a new system to get on with the Irregular Conflict Series, supposed to take less time, less players. So hopefully you enjoyed the unboxing there. As usual, Meandering Mike starts to meander as he goes into these, but I like to explore these and show what's in them and try to analyze a little bit at this is initial first look. So anything that I said could have been wrong. We're seeing the evidence of our senses as we had looked through these cards and stuff and at different charts and that, and obviously there's nothing I said is saying how the game actually is or plays, but it's interesting to analyze these as I do dig in sort of a forensic boxing, so to speak. So again, take care, ciao, and enjoy your look at interesting parts of history. Bye, y'all.